One of my best buds is cooking his first brisket ever in his entire life. And because I love him, I figured let me record a video of me trimming a brisket step by step, unedited, full front to back, and I'll send it to him. And well, because I love you guys, I figured I'll just record the video that I would have sent him, still send it to him, and then post it to my YouTube channel because I have a barbecue YouTube channel where I teach people how to cook barbecue. So here we are. Let's begin. Brisket is truly nothing to be afraid of, my friends. And whether you've trimmed 1,000 or this is your first one, first I promise you'll pick up at least a half a tip or a tip or two at minimum, and at maximum, you might walk away from this thing and really feel good about this. As mentioned, this is going to be a totally live trim. The only thing that I will cut out of this video will be above grotesque things like burps, hiccups, belches, and the likes. Okay, so real quick, we'll talk knives. This is a 12-inch slicer. My friends at Outdoor Edge sent this to me, amongst other things. So I got a link of this knife all over my social media, but if you want it, you can grab it. I've used all kinds of knives. I would say for the purposes of this video, use whatever you either have now or have access to. Ideally, you just want the knife to be as sharp as possible. These days I use the 12-inch slicer. I have a separate video where I explain my reasons, but just to note, I've used a 7-inch boning knife. I've used slicers. I've used really all kinds of knives. In the description of this video, I'll leave links to different knives in the event that you're watching this and you have a couple days to wait on an Amazon package. You can kind of pick what visually you like best if you don't know what knife to use, but we're rolling with this. Okay, jumping into it. As you saw, I made a slit. This is the deckle. This is called the deckle. Just so you guys know, brisket, envision brisket being like the pectoral of what the equivalent of a pectoral on a human being is kind of what the brisket is. So you can have a left brisket and a right side brisket. Depending upon which brisket you buy is going to tell you what side your deckle's on. The mohawk is always opposite the deckle. We'll talk about the mohawk in a second, but I just want to approach this video and leave no stone unturned. And I said I'm not going to edit anything, good, bad, or indifferent, so I'm literally going to toss this cryovac in the sink. There we go. So the biggest thing when it comes to trimming a brisket is you want to follow a flow. I talk about it all the time ad nauseum, but the biggest mistake that I see guys make is they are constantly chasing their brisket. They trim here, then they trim there, then they flip it over, and they're all over the place. Follow this video literally step by step, and it's going to be really hard for you to go wrong, barring just learning brisket. This is the deckle. The first thing I do when I'm approaching a brisket, this is my first step, is I want to make sure that the underneath side of my brisket, which is the side we're looking at, which is the deckle side, I want to make sure that the underneath is as flat as humanly possible. I'll talk about why we want it flat a little bit later in the video, but just keep that in your head that every trim, every cut that I make is to maintain the aerodynamics of the brisket. I remove that deckle. It's very important that you guys realize a couple things when it comes to trimming brisket. You do not want to trim a brisket solely based on the current aesthetic of the brisket. What you want to do is trim the brisket with the cook in mind, meaning every cut you make, there's a rhyme and a reason to the cut. So as it pertains to this deckle, the reason that I remove the deckle, like I said, is to make sure that the brisket is as flat as humanly possible. The second reason that I want to trim the deckle out is because that's not going to render. It's not. It's too thick. If you cut the deckle in half, you can see there is no meat. It is just white, hard fat. We don't want it. Now, before we move on from the deckle, this is very important. I've seen over the years, people, per their technique, they take this deckle all the way out, which you can do. You can just come in here and cut it all the way out. I don't do that. Here's why I don't do that. This brisket, when it's cooking, is going to be getting hammered by heat and convection. Totally hammered. I actually use the deckle to my advantage to protect this underneath side. This about right at the midway point back is where you're going to get those money shots. I mean, if you cook a brisket right, it's all delicious, but those slices that you want kind of start in and around here and they go back. This is the point. This is what's called the fatty. And so the point that I'm making is that to preserve this in here, or money section, I leave this deckle in. So I'm just going in, I'm removing, and as you can see, guys, I don't just stop. I do long slices, long strokes to get my brisket flat. I never do hacks like that. It's all fluid as I'm moving all the way back. And then what I want to do is continue to feel my hand. We got a hump here. So I'm just laying, this is why I like this 12-inch slicer. I'm just laying my slicer flat. My knife is going to tell me what's too high because as I go, it's just going to pick it up. There we go. There is this, what folks will call silver skin. I want to make it known, guys. Guys and gals, excuse me. I want to make it known. This, what you see, is not silver skin. It's not. Silver skin is sinewy. It does not break down. It does not cook at all. And it is a hindrance to the cooking process. This is just natural meat coming from the steer or not natural meat, I'm sorry. Natural topical fat on top of the meat that just comes off the steer in the butchering process. 9 times out of 10, especially if I'm cooking like 10 to 30 briskets, I don't take this stuff off. However, my guess is most of you guys are probably doing anywhere between 1 to 5 briskets. And to that I say, we have the time. Take your time. You can make this as pretty as you want, or you can do what I tend to do, and that's just leave it. You're gonna see I'm constantly rubbing this brisket. It might look a little weird by the end of this video, but the reason that I'm constantly rubbing this brisket is because I'm just wanting to feel for any impurities, but then also I want to feel with my hand, my touch, my senses. Did I miss anything? And I am feeling this. This is just as flat as can be. This is a beautifully trimmed brisket. Let's move on. Okay, the bottom's done. That's all you need to do. Don't second guess it. Don't jump all around. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about the top of the brisket. Now, I picked this brisket on purpose. I had the pick of the litter. Why did I pick this one? Well, because it's really ugly. And there's gonna be a handful of you guys that just luck up and get an ugly brisket. So I picked one of the harder ones to trim. It's not really even. The mohawk that we're gonna talk about here in like 3 seconds is doing some weird stuff. So let's break down what's happening. Let me flip it this way. Let's break down what's happening with this brisket. And I'm gonna try to talk and trim, guys, because I want you to watch this live. I want you to watch this while you're trimming your brisket. And if I rant too long, that doesn't help you. Opposite the deckle side is your mohawk. What is a mohawk? In short, it's just a big hunk of the brisket that we do not want. We don't want it for the cook, but the mohawk is some of the best meat on the brisket. And I have videos on my channel on how I cook this down. This makes great sausage trim, actually. If we leave this on, you can see this is just a shark fin. This is gonna get so burnt up and it's gonna dry out. And what happens with brisket, guys, is if you get a part of your brisket that's drying rapidly during the cook, it's gonna work like a dry sponge in water. If you put a dry sponge in a bowl of water, the sponge is gonna soak up all the moisture. That's what dry bits on a brisket does, so it's important we remove it. Let's talk about removing a mohawk. There's a couple ways to do this. The most important thing that you realize when you do this is that your inclination is to do this. Because if you've never trimmed a brisket, you're gonna think, oh my gosh, I don't wanna take this whole thing out. You're gonna be scared. Guys, do not be scared. Listen to me right now. This is the most fail-proof cut you will make on this entire brisket, only second to the deckle. You cannot go wrong removing this mohawk, so just trust yourself. There's 2 ways of doing this. You can start behind the mohawk. Let me flip my knife. You can start behind the mohawk and cut down this way and take it out. Or you can come from underneath and come up under the mohawk and take it out, which is what I'll do for the purpose of this video. I'm just going to get right underneath. I'm going to pull this up, see what I'm looking at. You can see the shark fin, and I'm just going to go right underneath this mohawk. Now, what I want you guys to see is that my knife is at this, I don't know, is this a 45-degree angle? I have no idea. What my knife is not doing is it's not tipped up, and my knife is not tipped all the way down. My knife is right at the angle of the brisket, like so. Now, when you get to the end, this is the point side. Remember, point is where you get your fatty slices from. Lean is the opposite side. We'll explain that in a little bit. When you get to the end, you do not want to go vertically out. You want to go down and around. This is going to help with our aerodynamics. So we're going down and I'm bringing my knife round, long stroke out. There you go. That is a trimmed mohawk. Now let's make it look pretty. Now, in order to make this thing look pretty now, we want to do the next stage of this process. This is what I call my leading lines. This is the next step. We're just working through the flow. What you're going to do is you're going to find the most outer edge of your point. The point is round, or at least it should be. The most outer edge on your mohawk side is where you're going to start your leading line. If I start inside my outside edge, I end up taking too much of this off. You see that? So I want to start on the most outer side, and all I'm going to do is press this out, and I'm literally going to bring this cut all the way down. That's a leading line. We'll talk about why we do that. Nice and slow. Don't rush it. That's a leading line. Beautiful, beautiful piece of meat. This is the first real look that we have into our brisket. Now, this is a choice brisket I got from Sam's Club, but right off the bat, we can kind of see this marbling in the point side, and then as we move to the lean, this is going to give us a good look at what's happening in our lean. And frankly, the lean's not too impressive, but that's life. This leading line is important because we want to open this up and see exactly what we're looking at. Down in here is where we want about 1/4 of an inch of fat. And I can see right now that we pretty much have that. All I'm going to do from here is just make sure that this meat is underneath, like so. And by underneath, I mean it's just not sticking out too much. Okay. That's it. Don't overthink it. Don't second guess it. Move on. From here, it's time to start working this fat cap. I want to tell you guys something. The fat cap, it's one of the most essential parts of a proper brisket cook. We don't want to remove too much, but we also don't want to keep too much. So opposite the mohawk side now, we have this big hunk of fat right here. This fat in here, which is underneath the deckle, see deckle here, the fat on top of the deckle typically is it's the thickest fat on our brisket, and it's some of the hardest to render at this thickness. So all we want to do is just slowly start to work this down. Now, I like going behind this hump of fat just in the beginning because you're able to kind of judge it. You're not doing too much. You're not making any scary cuts. Now, there's a thing called scalping a brisket, which I'm likely to do on this cut, and if I do, we'll talk about it. But in an effort not to scalp this brisket, I'm just slowly taking my knife one section at a time, just working this fat cap off. What you can't see is my knife is not too high and my knife is not too low. My knife is laying flat against this brisket, and I'm just going in just enough to pull out the amount of fat that I want. You'll feel inclined, guys, to rush this process. Barbecue can be stressful. There's a lot of prep. You're serving a lot of people, and you can feel inclined to try to rush this. Do not rush this. My advice, Trim the day before you cook. If you can, please try your best not to trim the morning of the cook. What'll happen is you're gonna be there trimming for an hour, watching videos, trying to figure it out if you're not comfortable with brisket trimming when your brisket really should be on the smoker. Again, for the purposes of this video, I'm just trying to go slow, follow this live, and I'll note this, I don't believe you guys need me talking the entire time. I know that the average attention span of America, according to the data, is that of a goldfish, and I am guilty of that, but my point is we're all adults. I don't really want to necessarily entertain you, I want to teach you. Why am I saying that? If I stop talking, just watch what I'm doing. Not everything needs me running my yapper. Do you guys notice how I'm literally working this one section? That's what I was talking about earlier. The biggest mistake is folks start chasing the brisket. We're working in quadrants. We did the underneath deckle. We did the opposite side mohawk. Now I'm just going back this way. I'm just working in quadrants. That way I don't have to overthink it. All this is going to come. But right now we're not worried about it. Now you might be wondering, Marcus, how do we know when we've trimmed enough? It's a great question, my friend. Firstly, feel. You got to start trusting your feel. If I feel this down in here, this is a little bit more pillowy, not as thick as up here. That's first. I can just feel around the brisket where the fat's lighter. You get that over time, but the only way to get that is to start trying to understand the feel. So feel first. I can feel, like right in here, I can feel the waxiness of this fat. We're looking for a more pillowy fat. So that's first, is feel. Second is I can make a slit, which I'm not going to do, but I can literally make a slit into the brisket, open it, and just see how much is in there. I'm not going to do that right now. Notice how I'm going down and round. I'm not going out and I'm not going vertically down. I'm following the curvature of the brisket. Every cut we make, we want it to be round. See how this is starting to take shape? It's starting to be round. This is one, how you get that aesthetic brisket. Two, it's how you achieve peak aerodynamics because, I mean, I know that word aerodynamic is kind of overused in barbecue, but it is, I mean, it's true. A brisket cook most benefits from not catching air around the surface, or not the surface, sorry, the outer edges. Air and friction can burn bits and pieces of your brisket if it's not aerodynamic. So I'm just moving through this, guys. If you're following this live, you and I are doing this in real time. We really are. I mean, I haven't, at least I hope up to this point, I haven't edited really anything out. So we're just going one slice at a time. Just getting this side where I want it, constantly moving my hand. I'm telling you, family, if you start moving your hand around this brisket, smoothing it out, the heat from your hand is actually going to start to melt the top layer of this brisket. You can already see it kind of happening. The reason we want to do that is because here and about right now, I'm going to start taking my fingers and I'm going to start pinching And when you pinch, if there's too much fat, it's gonna raise up in here. Like right in here. Let me show you. You see how that's raised? It's because I pinched it. And it's raising. I know I gotta take some of that out. All right. I actually feel pretty good about what's happening here. Let's move on. From here, we have the rest of this brisket to take the fat cap off of. What I like to do is I start back in the point. Each brisket's going to be different. I'm constantly feeling. I can feel in here, this is waxy, it's hard, there's a lot of this fat in here. I'm going to start at the top of this brisket and just take this all the way down. If you scalp it, that's totally fine. Just, well, if I scalp this, I'll try to show you how I recover a scalp. I showed it in one of my other videos. The goal, obviously, is not for me to try to scalp this, but if I do, I'll show you guys how to troubleshoot it. But all I'm doing is just taking the high ridges off of this fat cap. I'm not going too deep in there, guys. I'm just taking the high ridges off, constantly feeling. You'll notice in each brisket, right at around the midway point, typically in here, as it goes down into the lean, this fat is normally already about 1/4 of an inch. If you try to make these same cuts that I'm doing, these kind of deeper cuts in and around the lean side, you're typically going to scalp it because there's just more fat on this outer edge here. So keep that in mind. You see how I just checked that? That's a good example. I noticed that my knife just felt a little too deep in there. Rather than continuing to cut, I immediately stop and I opened that up and I just was checking. I was checking to see, did I scalp it? Because if I did, I can undo the scalp versus me just hacking that whole thing out. And you can already see this is starting to get a lot more pillowy. Maybe you can see. See how it's getting whiter. It's getting whiter, the color white, not whiter. It's getting whiter, prettier, and pillowier. And I can physically feel it's softer. Out in here, it's hard and waxy. And here it's getting softer because we're revealing that pillowy fat that we want that's actually going to render. So let me continue to take this out. Another way you can trim this, guys, I'm going to flip it towards you and risk totally botching this thing so you can see. But another way you can trim is if you don't want to go all the way down the brisket, the same way that we were doing this edge, just start about 2/3 of the way into the brisket and just start doing that same thing here and then go down here and do the same thing. Different strokes for different folks, but you can also do that because it's going to allow you to do that same pinch thing. It's going to allow you to do that here too. And as you can see, I'm pinching this. This is fat that needs to be removed. Can you see that hump? That's fat. Now, what you do not want to do is say, oh, look at all that fat and go underneath it and try to gouge it out. You want to take the top couple centimeters off of that and move slowly. Now that's getting more even. See that? I just feeling it. And I'm removing just a little bit. Okay, let me flip this back. Let me keep trimming and then we'll move on. We're actually almost done. Briskets aren't as scary as they look. So all I'm going to do now is continue. This is normally how I do it, is I cut towards me. See what I'm doing? I'm just getting underneath. And I try to move, I really do. I try to move within the same kind of 2 to 3 inch radius rather than doing this and doing this and doing this. I'm just moving my way down towards the outer edge. All right, so this looks good. This looks good so far. It's not totally there. We're going to get it a little bit more pretty, but we're working through. I want to talk about what's happening here, because as we get closer to this lean towards the end, what we do on this other leading line is important. Remember that leading line we made? We exposed all this. What we do here is important. I used to teach just making another leading line and just making a straight line down, turning it into a rectangle. I don't do that anymore. I went to Bar A Barbecue a few years ago, I think at this point, and I was hanging out with the pitmaster Alec, and he was trimming a bunch of briskets. I was trimming a couple briskets, and I was kind of doing it my way, watching how he does it. And I noticed that when he got to the lean side, he was doing what I'm about to show you in a second. But what I realized is that he was actually leaving a lot of this outer fat. What I used to do is I used to make a leading line down here and just cut this fat out, but he didn't do that. And the reason that he didn't do that is he said that a lot of this fat on the outside protects the lean. And I was like, oh, that's genius. That makes total sense. So what I do, as you saw, I was just cutting this out. And as I get to this lean side, I'm going down and around. And I'm flattening this out just on this one corner until I get it where I want. And what I try to do personally is the closer that I get to the edge of this lean, the more meat actually that I try to cut out, because I want to expose just a little bit. I just want to see the color change, the hue of it change. This is getting real pillowy there. I'm getting close. There it is. You see that? It's just barely there, because what I do now is I snip this out just ever so slightly. Press this out and I snip it like this. Now, you see how that just exposed just the meat right there. This is the lean. I didn't continue this cut all the way down. I just took out just what I needed right in there. And then the cool thing is that the way that we trimmed it, it's just nice and even, and that fat kind of rolls off rather than sticking straight out. So that's done there. All I'm going to do is just continue to touch up this outer side. Oh, see, I did it again. I thought I was going to scalp it. Rather than continuing, I just stop. I flip it up. I look underneath. I didn't scalp it. And I'm going to pull this and just make sure that I'm safe. Scalps can be avoided for the most part, guys. Most scalps happen because we're just moving a little too fast. On this edge, I'm going down and around. I'm turning my blade towards the brisket once I get to that outer side. This ensures that, one, it looks prettier, and two, we're not exposing too much of this outer side. Notice how all this is going to be protected now. I'm feeling. It's still semi-waxy. Up in here is pillowy. This corner right here, it's a little waxy, but my nerve is that if I continue to try to perfect it, I'm just going to end up scalping it. So I'm just going real slow. We'll see what happens. I got to call that. If I keep going, it's not going to be pretty. All right. This all looks good in here. I would say most of this brisket now, it's trimmed. It's looking really good. All right, let's round this out. Family, drop in the comments at this point. Let me know, if you're trimming a brisket with me, how is your brisket coming? How's it coming? How's it looking? Is this helping? Let me know. And if you're not trimming a brisket and you're just a barbecue nerd like me and you're like, I can never get enough brisket trimming videos, let me know. Is this helpful? Is this something, I don't know, new that you've seen? Let me know. Okay. So this brisket out of the cryovac it was really skinny. I personally like nice wide 14 to 16 pounds, just a hog of a brisket, nice and wide. But again, like I said, I tried to buy something that is not as pretty out of the cryo. Now, we need to do what I call a QC check. So just a quality assurance check around the brisket, excuse me, around the brisket. Make sure that fat's where we want it. So I'm just feeling where I didn't trim. Notice the difference in fat. See this reddish, more saturated hue. And then opposite of that, it's just nice, pillowy, and white. That's because this had so much fat. We had to even it out. Now it's even from this side to that side. That's even. So this cow, thank you, cow. You gave us fat that we did not need to trim. Left that in there. I'm feeling all around. Do I feel any waxy? That's what I'm looking for. Guys, trust your years on this earth. Like, you've been around earth long enough to know what wax feels like. This fat, tallow, it's used for candles. It's used for literally candles. It feels like a candle. That's all you're trying to remove. Gosh darn, that's good. That is a good tip. You're feeling for candle-like texture. And if you don't have it, that means you're doing good. All right, let's make it aerodynamic, and then we're going to do some last kind of final touches. What do I mean by aerodynamic? Let me get this in shot. Where are we at? There we are. Okay. So right now we have a rectangle. We have a harsh triangle in there, harsh triangle in there. If we leave that, this is going to burn up. It's going to start to curl when it cooks. It's going to destroy your lean. You're not going to have a chance. This is what I like to do. You have a couple options. I can come up towards the point, and I'm going to do it in a second. I'm literally going to cut this off. The reason I cut it off is because you have to have your lean as close to the thickness of the rest of the brisket as possible. Now, your lean is never going to be as thick as your point. It's just not. So the consistency that you're looking for is from one side of your lean to the next. See how this side's thicker? And this side better matches the consistency of the thickness through the rest of the lean, while this guy is the outlier. This flank, this triangle right here is too thin. It's the outlier. If we leave it this thin, like I said, this specific section is going to start to cook like this, and that's going to burn and dry up. And once this is dry, guys, it's going to start pulling all the moisture from your brisket. It's going to go whoop, right in there and continue to dry. And then you have a dry lean. So what we need to do is even this up. What I see people do that I would not suggest is they go to this, and I get it because YouTube videos over the years have kind of shown this. However, I have adopted an easier way, and I'm going to teach it to you. You could take this triangle out, which I've seen people do. They take this out, and then they do something like this, and then they have like a really weird shark head type brisket, like a real triangle. You don't want that. You want your brisket to be UFO saucer. So what I do is I come up just an inch or two. Just an inch or two. And it gives me a little leeway. We're going to lose some meat. That's fine. Just whatever. Cook it up. Figure it out. I don't know. You got it. But you got to take this off. The thinner it is, the further back you go. Now I know I'm talking more right now, but this is so important, guys. A trick that you'll see some barbecue restaurants do, because they make sausage at volume, is they actually come higher up on the brisket, close. You see how this is getting thicker. The further back we go, it gets thicker. They actually come back, and sometimes they'll come back in and around like right in here, and they'll hack that whole thing off. The reason they do that is because they'll pull just a few lean slices, and they're juicier in here because they're closer to the point. So they'll pull some of these lean slices, and then they flip it and they go almost immediately into their point slices. And they can do that because they take a lot of this out. I don't have restaurant money. I would like to serve as much brisket as possible. So I'm going to leave this. I'm coming up just an inch or two, and I'm just going to take that out. That's going to give us a better head start. See, it's already See that? It's already a little thicker. It's not perfect, but it's not as thin. See, this is what we removed. So see where my finger is just a little thinner. Now we got a little bit more thickness. Now here's what we're gonna do. You see how this is, where am I? There I am. You see how this is just, there's like nothing there. But the higher you go up, the thicker it goes. What we're gonna do is we're gonna find where it gets right in the thickness that we want, and we're gonna do the following. We're gonna take this triangle out. That's the thinnest part. We're gonna take it out. I'm literally gonna make a triangle. Make sure your brisket now is fully pressed out, fully flattened out. And I'm gonna make this triangle. I'm taking this out. Now, see what I did? I put my fingers down and I pushed. I didn't just come and cut it. I roll it and I'm pushing. I need this as flat as possible. And now I'm connecting the two thickest points. It's thickest here on the lean and it's thickest here on the point. And I'm taking it. Now you see what we just did? This is literally even. It's like as even as it could be all the way around now. That's going to ensure a more consistent cook. Now what we need to do to make it aerodynamic is we need to take one more triangle. That's it. Nothing crazy. One more triangle. Press it out. Press it out. Guys, if it's your first time, don't do this hatchery. I know it looks sexy. It looks good. You want to take it out. No idea what those sound effects were. But yeah, just woosah. Press it out. We have our little triangle right where this bends. It's going to start there and it comes out and then it bends again. We're just going to follow the curvature just like that. See? Just making little tiny, see that, guys? Beautifully round. Now we got some more sides to do. Now, you see how it's round, but we got a little sharp part. We like the thickness here, so all we're doing is just completing the roundness. Can we see that? Yes, we can. One side, perfectly round, aerodynamic. The as it's cooking, this is our firebox side here. This is our smokestack side. Is that right? Let me think. Yeah, I'm oriented. Okay. This is our firebox side. So the heat's coming from here. It's hitting the point, which is the fattiest part of the brisket. Because there's no sharp edges, the air is just going to go right around. The air is going to travel, 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 and the air is going to wrap around. If we left all that, the air is going to go whoop right here and get hit and start to dry this out. But now the air is going to wrap. We need the same wrap over here. Let's see this? We don't want that. So we're going to do the same exact thing. Remember, this is the thickest side of our lean. We are not removing this. We're not. Sorry, I'm getting all fired up. I freaking love barbecue and I love teaching. I hope this is helpful. I don't know how long I'm going, but hopefully you're following along. This is our thickest part of our brisket now. So we're just trying to keep the aerodynamicness. One more triangle. And guys, it's important as you're trimming, you'll feel inclined just naturally to angle your knife as you're making these cuts. Don't do that. Keep your knife up and down as vertical as possible, because what you don't want is you don't really want your fat to be rolled out in front of you don't want your meat to be rolled out in front of your flat. You want this all to sit vertically down. Anyways, make sure your knife's vertical. So we cut that. Where's my next triangle? I'd say this is a little guy. Little tiny triangle there, little tiny triangle there. Then we got one more here. You see that? You can barely see it. That little guy. I'm a perfectionist, so I gotta take it. And you see how I'm constantly pressing out. Now all I'm doing is I'm laying my knife vertically flat on the outside of the brisket, and I'm just taking this sashimi meat, just that tartare meat. That's all I want. Just taking that out to make it, nice and sexy, I guess. Just take the tartare. There we go, folks. Just underneath now. Touching this up. And that is the world's skinniest brisket, but it's cooked. Or it's cooked. What am I saying? As the kids say, it's cooked. That would not be a good thing. No, it's trimmed. It's done. This is done. This is a done brisket. As I continue to just mess with it. All right, guys, let me be done. At this point in time, you're going to feel inclined to do a lot of things like mess with it. Do not mess with it. If you got to this stage in the process, your brisket is done. Now, when you put it on your smoker, you want to see how this is all elongated. This is probably the skinniest brisket I have ever made. You don't want that. You want to plump it up. Plump it up. Shape it when you put on your smoker. Each brisket matters. Tuck that meat underneath the fat. Shape it. That would be ready to go on a smoker. The reason I made this video is because I wanted to make a video that I would have loved to have had 10, 15 years ago when I was trying to figure out this whole barbecue thing. I have trimmed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of brisket in my life. And what you just saw is, I say this just with as much vulnerability and humility as I possibly can muster. What you just saw was just many years of trial and error and messing up and mistakes to just get relatively proficient at trimming a brisket. Guys, if you're new to the channel, I'm not gonna ask you to do anything. I never do. If you're new to the channel, I just ask that you enjoy yourself while you're here. And if what am I saying? If you're not new to barbecue, but you're new to the channel and you see someone in the comments asking a question or floundering, they need some help, my only request to the new people is, would you just hop in and just help a fellow barbecue brother or sister out? The meet and greet community, I believe what we're all building together, meet and greet, it's one of the coolest, most helpful communities out there. And I can say that because I'm constantly reading comments of folks who have been around the barbecue block helping our new brothers and sisters out. And so, I don't know, that's why the experts and the beginners seem to find their way to meet and greet, because we're just a cool bunch of people. I love you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for all the support. And if it's not your first time here, welcome back, family. You know the deal. Give me a hug, virtual hug. That's so weird, but I'm hugging you. Meet and greet. Over and out.